The following is meant for entertainment and educational purposes. It is not meant to establish a doctor-patient relationship. Please consult your mental health provider for your mental health needs. Hello, welcome to Chez Eric, my home where we talk about psychiatry and religion with a focus on how to apply it to your life. I'm Dr. Eric. I'm a psychiatrist who happens to be religious, and I like to create this space, Chez Eric. It's a place, it's a space, whatever, to talk about psychiatry and religion, because when do you get a chance to talk about it? Not too many, I imagine, for the common sort of day-to-day activities. So today we will be continuing with the William James series on the Varieties of Religious Experience, and this is lecture 9 on conversion, and I hope you're finding the conversion piece pretty interesting. The conversion process so far as we understand it is that we have, in the lecture 8, we talked about the divided soul and that it has to come together through some sort of transformation. Transformation is about, your psychology going from one state to another state, but permanently changing to another state. These states are defined by how hot or how cold or how much priority you put in the thing that you care about. What is the center of your focus? And then for people who are converting in a religious sense, religion or spirituality used to be on the side and then it becomes the center. And in that process, it could be gradual or it could be very, very quick. James then kind of goes through Dr. Starbuck's, Dr. Luba's version of conversion and says those aren't actually quite hitting the mark, and he believes that his understanding of conversion is superior. So let's continue the journey. William James kind of admits that some people can be converted, but other people can't. Some people just cannot be converted. It means that the religious center, the religious ideas can never be at the center of their energy for whatever reason. They can still be wonderful people, they just don't need to follow God. And it might be because of intellectual reasons, their beliefs, they can't believe because of intellectual reasons, or they're just not into it. For others, he says they are anesthetic on the religious side. It could be temporary, it could be, they would need a miracle in order for them to believe in God. And so there are people like this. And from there, he kind of talks about this idea that there are really two mental modes for people, the volitional type and the self-surrender type. And he starts off by saying that, by describing a phenomenon we've all experienced. Have you ever had a situation where you're just thinking about something and it was like at the tip of your tongue and you're about to say it, but you can't remember it, and you really dig really hard to try to figure it out, but you can't, and then, but only when you relax, only when you're let me just calm down a little bit, does it suddenly pop up in your brain. And it is this idea of surrendering that he really wants to highlight as part of a religious conversion concept. Because there's both a conscious, which is voluntary, and an unconscious, which is the surrendering type of way where we process things on a mental way, right? And they both exist in history. There isn't a better way or a worse way. They both kind of exist in the way we understand the world. So first, with the volitional type, the conscious way, the positive change is gradual. You're building up a new set of moral and spiritual habits piece by piece. And, there might be critical parts of the process where you're more rapid, but generally speaking, it's a gradual process. So for example, let's say a musician is learning how to play the guitar. Every single day they're practicing. That's a gradual process. There might be some time in the musician's life that they're progressing more rapidly than otherwise, but by and large, they're just progressing slow and slow, and they eventually become an expert musician. Same with an athlete. An athlete will practice every single day, playing basketball, dribbling the ball, and eventually through enough practice, they become a professional athlete. So there are a lot of examples, but they're generally not as interesting. They're not these sort of excited, sort of explosive changes, but it does exist. And self-surrender is the subconscious way of going about the conversion process. And there are two elements when we're going into the subconscious self-surrender sort of method of it. The first one is that there needs to be a recognition of an incompleteness or a wrong, a sin, so to speak, right? That one really, really wants to escape from. And then the second part is that there's a positive ideal that the person longs to have, that they really want. And the conversion process is struggling away from the sin and going towards the ideal, the righteousness part. And then when someone goes towards the idea, it can only truly be an abstract concept. But the thing is that there's a working in the subconscious space such that when the person is able to let go and surrender, it is as if their mind is no longer jammed, right? They're having this trouble. They see this wrongness in the world, and they know the right thing to do, the right thing that should exist. And no matter how hard they try, no matter how hard they're thinking about it, their mind is jammed. It's very similar, according to James, very similar to this idea of trying to find that word and you can't get it. And only by surrendering and letting go can it naturally come to you. And so when someone has this knowledge of the wrong and the positive ideal they're trying to reach, only by surrendering are they able to then bring the two together. And that is where the subconscious is able to lead you to allow the better half of yourself to take over, right? And that's why relaxing allows you to get to that next state. It is, what is giving up? Do you mean you give up on life? No, it's merely more about yielding yielding oneself to new life, right? Making a new center of your personality and living from within that. So it's that you let go, and the common phrase is that you allow God to do what he needs to do. You give it to God. You let go, you surrender it to God. And that is then the conversion process to then allow yourself to go from the state of, something's wrong, there's sinfulness, to a state of idealized, righteousness. And so that is the theological way of describing it. You allow God with all the power to do all the work. And they say that self-surrender has always been seen as the vital turning point for religious life, whereas others might say, it's not as necessary. And James actually goes into that a little bit later about comparing the volitional versus the self-surrender type, and not one is better than the other one. So before I end here to the next part, I do want to talk a little bit about, James's use of the subconscious. When I first started learning about psychiatry and about psychology and about psychological theory, there's a large reference to the subconscious. But although we have evidence that there is some sort of unseen process going on in the background that can be revealed through insight, I've always been very uncomfortable with the idea of allowing the subconscious be the main driver for explaining why things happen. And the reason is because if, in fact, the subconscious is the main driver why we do what we do, then you can always throw every single theory into the subconscious, right? So why are you doing that? Subconscious. Why did you say one thing and do something else? Subconscious. And although we do have evidence that there is some sort of underlying process that's going on that we're not conscious of, I always try to take it with a grain of salt, because I feel like that it can go to awry. For example, if someone says, oh, the reason, Dr. Eric, the reason why you go into psychiatry is because of your subconscious. Like, oh, okay. Oh, the reason why you ate that cheesecake was because of your subconscious. Like, oh, okay. And suddenly everything can be explained by the subconscious, when in actuality, nothing can be measured by the subconscious. So it's a thing that we want to be knowledgeable of. We don't want to dump everything into it, but we certainly want to be knowledgeable of it and try to find a connection with the subconscious to something else that's more valuable. So for example, a biological basis for the subconscious. For example, people want to eat, and therefore subconsciously they're constantly thinking about how they're going to eat next. But then they're trying to figure out an appropriate way to eat, and then that's how it explains their behavior. So I'm basing the subconscious on a biological need to survive, and I'm more comfortable with that sort of thing. It gets more complicated from there, so I just stop here. And I guess some food for thought. What are your thoughts? Are you more of the volitional sort of a little bit every single day, conscious sort of way of understanding religion? Or are you more of the self-surrendering type, where you just let it go and then suddenly you have this rush? Or do you not believe in religion at all? That's cool too. What do you see as the conversion process? How are you viewing the conversion process? Let me know in the comments below. It's this place to discuss it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Hey, how's it going? Check out my new website. It's available now. You can learn more about me. You can also check out some things I'll be offering in the future, webinars, books, and whatnot. It's a fancy website with a lot of moving parts, designed by someone who's very, very talented. So check it out whenever you get a chance. All right, I'll talk to you later.